Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about Nesha, her best builds, resonance cards, and team comps, and more. So without further ado, let's get started. Nesha is a back row Radiance archer DPS, and yes, she's very strong with a very big heart as well. So let's start with her ultimate. Nesha's ultimate inflicts damage equal to 774% of her own attack to all enemies, and on top of that, it also increases the damage of her passive skill by 35% for 12 seconds with a 30 seconds cooldown. This is a huge for her overall DPS because of her passive is actually the core of her entire kit, and you will see why in a second. So here's how her passive work. When Nesha hits an enemy with basic attacks, active skills, or ultimate, she gains a mirror mark. The wording on this skill is honestly a bit confusing and weird, but to simplify it, every time she hits an enemy, she gains 1 stack. When those stack reaches 9, she immediately heals herself for 4.5% of her max HP. This is what they're trying to say here basically. And at the same time, when she hits those 9 stacks, she also gains another effect for every 1 second she deals an additional hit equal to 126% of her own attack. And this can go up to 180% at level 5, which is insane. This effect can stack up to 5 times and last for 6 seconds, and this can be refreshed by the way. So basically Nesha has a ramping DPS. To explain it more clearly, when you reach your first 9 stacks, you get an instant heal, and you also gain 1, let's call it fractal mirror stack for example. That stack will last for 6 seconds, and during that time, every second she deals 1 extra hit after her basic attacks. And when you reach another set of those 9 stacks from before, you go up to 2 fractal mirror stacks now, meaning you deal 2 extra hits per second. 3 means 3 hits, and at max stacks she triggers 5 additional hits every second, which is honestly insane. In a single target fight with attack speed pit, or in almost every situation overall, she can maintain these max stacks very easily after the first time. As long as she doesn't get crown controlled or dies, she will be able to constantly refresh the timer of her passive and keep those extra hits. And remember, all of this get boosted even further by her ultimate, which is just push her damage to another level. Now let's talk about her active skill. Her active skill is pretty straightforward. It inflicts damage equal to 414% of her own attack at level 3 with a 12 seconds cooldown. Nothing too crazy like her passive though. And her second passive gives her a flat 56% attack and a 9% crit chance, which is very solid and just further boosts her overall damage. And as for her card, it gives her a 60% range attack, 10% ignore damage reduction, which is good against bosses. And on top of that, it also increases her basic attack damage and passive skill damage by 35%. This is huge for Nesha because, as you've seen, her passive is the core of her own DPS, and because of that, her signature card is basically her best in slot across the board. That said, she does have a very solid alternatives. For example, the Red Dragon. The Holy Grail is also a very strong card. It supports her teammates at the same time. Attack speed is extremely valuable for Nesha because of her damage is heavily based on basic attacks, and the faster animations directly translate into more DPS. The only downside is that attack speed card scales better the more dupes you have on, and the calculations I made, I already took into account around 40% attack speed from the pet in her weapon, which is why those cards feel a bit lower in the comparison due to the diminishing returns. Still, they remain very strong options, especially if you also want to provide some team supports, so keep that in mind. As for Transcendence levels, the new norm applies here as well. Her biggest power spike comes from going from T3 to T5, followed by the jump from T0 to T3, and then T5 to MLB. Now let's talk about her pet. The pet gives you a 60% attack, 10% damage reduction, 15% crit damage, and 10% hit and receive. And if you decide to use it as a main pet, it also gives you a 12% additional damage, but only to the archers, and it has a 100% uptime. Honestly, this pet is an easy skip in my opinion. I didn't even bother looking at it seriously on either of my accounts, mainly because of the current power creeps in the upcoming collab, and on top of that, archers are kinda dead at the moment, so the value just isn't there, to be honest. Since we also have a lot of reruns, it's much better to save and maybe pick it up later if we really need it for some specific reason, or we get even more archer characters in the future. And let's be honest here, Luwen's pet is just way better overall. Attack speed is just simply too valuable in the current state of the game, and this pet just can't compete with that, sadly. Now let's talk about her builds. For weapons, her best in slot right now is Fail Not. It gives her a 30% attack and crit damage, plus a 20% attack speed, which she really wants. On top of that, it has an extra effect that gives her a 200% crit damage for 8 seconds every 34 seconds, which lines up very well with her ramp up DPS. If you don't have it, Sagittarius is very good too. Tempest and Goddess Bow are all very good and solid alternatives. They give you added target and crit chance, which work very well on her. For the chest piece, Wild Combat Suit is excellent on her because of the 10% attack. You can also use Holy Fire Armor if you have it. If you don't, and she struggles to survive, especially when enemies starts targeting the back row, just swap to a tankier option like Merlin Robe, Cow Armor, Tempest Armor, Gold Armor, or anything similar. And when it comes to treasures, I would say Death Shield is my favorite, ideally with as much HP percentage as possible in the substats. If you already have enough survivability in the team so she doesn't die, you can always run this. It's called Stiletto for more damage because of the range attack it gives. Or you can use any crown type treasure or Tempest, they're all solid alternatives as well. For runes, you can just use the one with the highest crit damage in the substat. Depsy is ideal on her, but if you rolls are bad like me, Thunderheart is still a very solid option. Wild runes, Goddess runes are also good alternatives as well. As for traits, it's pretty straightforward, like your typical DPS focus on crit damage and attack. You can go with triple crit damage if you run her with attack buffers like Galahad, Rhea, Eren, and so on, or just mix crit damage and attack for more generic and flexible build. Now let's talk team comps. Since Nesha is an archer, she absolutely wants Galahad in her team. She gives her an insane 250% range attack buffs on top of invincibility, damage reduction, and defense, which is just perfect for her teammates and boosts her damage a lot while keeping her safe. Normally you would think about running Rhea here for an attack and crit damage buffs in Hayden too, but in the current meta we actually have a better option, and yes, she's Loera. Instead of only boosting Nesha's damage, you're adding another very strong source of DPS to the team. Loera can carry the early part of the fight, especially before Nesha fully ramps up her passive stacks. And if you go with Loera, you definitely want Eren in the team. Eren provides a very tanky shields for Loera and the whole team, extra attack and additional buffs, attack reduction on enemies too, and overall much better survivability. She also not position locked, so you can place her whenever you need to, which makes the team building way more flexible. And for the last slot, Morgan is the go-to choice. Yes, all of these units are extremely strong and we've got them back to back, which makes this team pretty rough to assemble, especially for F2P players. But if you have them, this lineup is insanely powerful. Loera carries the team early part of the fight, then Nesha gets her stacks rolling, and then she starts out damaging Loera, and finally Morgan comes out with a massive nuke to clean things up. And yes, it's a very totally well-balanced team overall. That said, you have more options. You can also replace Morgan with another support if you need to. Bedi is great if you want crit buffs and crowd control. Bedi is also very solid if you're looking for stuns and defense shred. So you're not locked into one setup, honestly. You still have a lot of freedom depending on what content and what units you own too. So the big question, should you summon for Nesha? Honestly, this question is starting to feel a bit pointless at this point of the game. Power creep is absolutely insane right now. Characters are coming out very strong, and if you skip too many banners, you might genuinely fall behind, and it's especially rough for F2P players now. At the same time, most of us already cleared the story, even for new players, which means our gem income is very limited, and we have to be way more careful with summons now, especially with these absurd back-to-back overpowered units, and the 2-week patches cycle is just too wild. When it comes to Nesha specifically, she's very strong, but in my opinion, she's a bit overshadowed by Loera, especially for F2P players and newer players as well. For most people, the main goal is to clear story, climbing towers, doing abyss, and some raids here and there. Loera is already covers all of those extremely well, especially when paired with Morgan. Nesha right now is more of an upgrade to the team for raids, ranking, and very good for score pushing too, rather than a must-have core unit, if you get what I'm saying. And let's be real, everyone is kind of broke right now and still recovering from recent banners, and because of that, I would say one copy of Nesha plus her card is more than enough to get the full experience of her. I personally love her design and playstyle too, but she's honestly released in a very awkward moment. That said, make sure to at least grab one copy of her for the lobby, and getting more dupes on her is definitely not a waste. Scale very well with Transcendence. Just make sure to go for her card first before going hard on dupes. And before committing to more summons, just keep in mind we're getting news about the upcoming collab tomorrow. Most likely Senran and Kagura, but it also could be another IP you might personally care more about. And also with how kits have been lately, there's almost guaranteed to be at least one broken unit in that collab. So it's really important to save some resources just in case. We still have about like 2 weeks to decide, so don't rush it. Now let's talk quickly about the banner's value. Nesha's pet is an easy skip. This is really not the time for it. Lance, on the other hand, has fallen off pretty hard. Her main role used to be story progression, where she tanks and deals good damage for the team, but Bedi outshined her, and Loera was basically the final nail in the coffin. You now can run a team with just Loera, Eren, Dion, plus another healer, and it could be Galahad or Percy. Press auto and the team will take you further than Lance ever could. And yeah, she's just a hater, by the way. As for Lance's card, sometimes it can be used on Bedi, so that at least something to consider. For her pet, it gives you HP, additional damage, and a bit of crit damage. Nothing crazy or meta defining. It's just usable here and there, but definitely not something you should summon for. As for Bedi, she's very strong support and honestly a must-have for your account if you don't already own her. We keep mentioning her in team comps for a reason. If you're summoning her, prioritize getting as many copies as possible, since she's a Holly unit and naturally she's rare and hard to get, so taking advantage of the rate up is very smart. For her card is skippable. Holy Grail is her best in slot now, and for her pet is also an easy skip too. It's just additional damage focused pet, so just skip it. Overall, it's really hard to recommend summoning heavily on reruns right now. We don't know how long this power creep wave will last, and we don't know if the devs will keep pushing these 2 weeks patches. We're going to have to plan our summons very carefully. Nesha is very strong, no doubt about that, but she released after some absolutely insane units. And most players are already looking toward the next shiny must-have thing, and that's why she feels a bit undervalued right now, even though she's very strong and solid to own as a character. My final recommendation is very simple. Get one copy of Nesha, grab her card, and wait for the collab news. If the collab doesn't interest you at all, then going for G3 and T5 is perfectly fine in her. She's actually worth it. Otherwise, save your resources. That's it for the video. I hope this video helped you out. If it did, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out, and I'm really sorry about my sick voice. I hope this doesn't bother you at all. And that's it. I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Bye.